Hello, my beautiful light beings, and welcome back to the Magic Exists podcast with Dani Margeaux. Today I have a very special guest. Her name is Belle. Belle is a Franklin psychology student with the Victor Frankl Institute of Logotherapy, a human design student with the International Human Design School, a psychedelic cannabis enthusiast, and an advocate for inner exploration. Blending science and spirituality, she encourages practices like emotional freedom technique, EFT, nervous system regulation, and embodiment work to help others reconnect with their authentic selves. Deeply inspired by Victor Frankl's logotherapy and the energy codes by Dr. Sue Morter, Belle is passionate about uncovering meaning and fostering personal transformation. Currently, Belle is focused on sharing her journey of growth and exploration on TikTok and Blue Sky and building her theory connecting the dots between embodiment, psychedelic exploration, and human design. Welcome, Belle!
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Yay! So, the first question I love to ask all my guests is what is your strongest clair and how does that represent in your life and in your work?
So, for sure, is going to be clear cognizance. I have always just known stuff before it's going to happen. So, really, how I see that manifesting in my life is I really, there have been so many pivotal moments in my life where I just knew that this is how something was going to transpire. Whether that was like being invited to this Akashic mentoring program I did, like I just knew before I even like talked to the, like I just know stuff, and I just have like a real genuine sense of just feeling confident about I know how some things are going to turn out. Also, obviously being open. And what's really interesting is that that actually runs in my family. My family is definitely not what I would call like spiritual per se, but I've definitely growing up with the time I did spend with my mom, like she had this like sense about her. And more recently, my aunt, who is kind of going through her own little spiritual thing right now in midlife, later in life, I was like explaining to her the sense of knowing, and she was like, I've always had that. And your grandma always had that. So her mom always had. So I just found out like semi recently that that actually like flows through my line. So yeah, it's just really a special gift that I'm really appreciative for.
That's so beautiful. And I love that you had this gift, but then you chosen to expand it, like you said, in the Akashic Records practice and course that you took. And that's actually how we met when I was divinely guided towards an Akashic Records reading. You were doing them and you gave me a reading and you were like, you're supposed to open the records. And then literally that week I did. And here we are.
Yes. Yes, I've always been drawn to those modalities that are more just about things dropping in, like channeled writing, and really any of those things have been more of the things that come a little bit more natural.
Beautiful. So, I want to ask about life purpose. We haven't really spoken about this on my podcast. So, I really want to talk about, from your perspective, what is the soul's purpose for reincarnation here?
That is an excellent question that I have been diving very, very, very deep into for several years now, trying like desperately to find an answer. But I actually found as close to an answer as I'm probably ever going to get through what you talked about in my intro, which is frankly in psychology and logotherapy. And logotherapy is literally translated the way Viktor Frankl translated is meaning therapy, and he really constitutes and argues and just posits that our main drive as human beings is to search for meaning. And so this search of purpose is just like what drives us, versus how Adler, we used to think it was like the drive for power, or Sigmund Freud was like, this drive for pleasure, like pleasure is what drives us. But no, it's like meaning and purpose that drives us. So when I think about what is like our soul's reason for like being here, incarnating, it is truly to find meaning in every single moment that we're in. It is just a constant unfolding of purpose, not there, of course, is this ultimate meaning of life, but that is like so truly unknowable. Like it's really easy to get so caught up in what is the ultimate meaning of my life. But it's like for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm 32 years old. I can't possibly know the whole meaning of my entire life, because first of all, I'm still in it. And so that really gave me like a lot of peace. But so really, to answer just the question, it is really about finding meaning in the moment moment, and meaning is found, that's such a deeply personal thing. Like, it's just so deeply personal that it is something that is truly here for us to uncover. And in that uncovering, there's growing and there's transformation and there's overcoming challenges, and it's that. So that's what I would say.
I absolutely love that. And I haven't heard that perspective before. So, and it totally resonated when you said that. I got like a full body chill.
Hmm.
And oftentimes, like I say purpose in client readings. So people will come to me like, what is my purpose? Right. And then typically there is something that, they are meant to be doing or uncovering or karma, they are meant to be healing, etc. But what I typically have been seeing recently is helping people unlock the essence of their being. Like that's
Hmm.
their purpose. But
Hmm.
oftentimes we have all these conditionings or limiting beliefs that are like on top of us, that we are like living life out of like a fear perspective. And so we aren't able to find meaning and purpose when we are like constantly in this like fear mentality. And so just exploring that and like helping people be in the love and be in the present moment, because oftentimes we're like, oh, we need to go to achieve, go and do to be productive and be motivated and all the things, and like that is success and that's what life is about. But actually how you're saying it is in the present moment, when we are here and we find meaning in this moment. That's like, you have to have stillness. And how do you create stillness? Like being, accepting just being.
Hmm. Yes, yes, exactly. And when I was doing Akashic readings for people, one of the things that came up a lot, because that question was very, very common, popular question, what is my purpose? And so often, in sometimes the same words, it would always come through the same, that your purpose is you. And at the time, I didn't really have a good words or vocabulary to really understand what that meant, to help people break that down. Because even myself, I was very much still going from place to place, very much still a wanderer, as is my nature, trying to figure things out. But the more that I sit with that now, it's when I say the purpose of you, your life is you, it is this authenticity, like the most authentic version of you that exists. It means you are doing what you want to do because you want to do it, because there is something inside of you that resonates. It's not necessarily like you do things that feel good, because that's kind of leading us towards this other, the purpose of life is pleasure. But it's like when you do things that bring you meaning, it just puts you on the path. And your purpose, I always say, the purpose is a feeling, not a destination. And so it's like my own life, for example, it's like the more that I'm engaging with these things that I do find meaningful, that resonate in my body, that bring me something appealing, it's like I just trust and know that if I keep moving in that way towards those things, whatever my purpose is going to unfold, versus me having to actually like build it. It's like purpose isn't something you create, it's something that emerges. And but the way that it emerges, right, is kind of like what you said, you have to feel safe enough to be with who you are, with where you are, safe enough to reflect on the things that you really enjoy. And sometimes, at least for me, there definitely was a point in my life where I was like, I don't even know what I like. I don't know what my skills are. Like, I don't have any skills. Like, I'm not special. I'm not any of these things. And in the process of like healing and resolving some traumas and all of these things, it becomes safer to like actually go back into like my childhood and be like, what was I doing all the time? And what was I like uncovering? And what was I exploring when people weren't being mean to me? And when I wasn't being like outcast as a weird kid, like what was I doing? And then, but again, that all came from like this requirement of feeling safe and feeling open and curious. It's about, I think sometimes too, with when it comes to purpose, is we all really want like an answer. Like we really want somebody to tell us what to do. Like just tell me what to do and I'll do it and it'll be great. But so much of that really has to come from the self. And that is why I'm so interested in those other practices as well. And just because coming back to self is like, it sounds so cliche to say it, because we say it all the time in the spiritual community, that the way, that like the answers. But like it's so true. It's so true.
It's so funny because something like that, right, is like uncovering who you are is your purpose. And someone who might be in the place of like still in the matrix or in the ego of the masculine narrative, they're kind of like, oh, like that's too simple or that doesn't make sense. But really, it's like being in the simplicity of that answer is so pure and so divine. And so, what are some ways someone can maybe find their safety within themselves or a way in which they can like really be in their stillness, be in their reflectiveness to find and uncover their purpose?
So there's a lot of different ways to do that. One of the ways that I've learned from Franklian psychology and from logotherapy is this idea of core values. And we depending on people's backgrounds, core values might mean different things. I can come from like a business, I learned about first about core values like coming from my job, like my company has values, right? But those values that are associated to my company are what my company finds important. And when my company makes decisions, they are trying to always align to their core values. Like for example, one of our core values is I think it's resourcefulness. And it's just about whenever we're making decisions, like for our employees and our people, we just always have this idea of being resourceful. Like, how can we get more for our people? How can we get more for our company? But that translates to the person, right? Because we think of core values with people, and what you find inherently important is like a place to start. Like, what is important to you? Like, what just everyone else out there just bringing it on home like just for a moment, like what is important. And sometimes that can be hard of a question, so we can think about like the last time that you felt really full, or the last time you felt really peaceful, or the last time you felt really satisfied. Like what were you doing and who are you with, and like what was coming out of that. And for myself, it was like I think back on some of my roles that I had at the animal shelter where I was like leading a team of people, I was making an impact, I was working with the animals. And from there, it's like I was able to extrapolate some of my core values, like authenticity and leadership and impact and those sorts of things. And so that's like a place to start. But I think there it even goes deeper than that, because you mentioned safety. And we have to really feel safe in our bodies in order for our mind to really want to go in there. And so for that, I really love EFT. I really love tapping. I think tapping is incredibly like underrated because it can be a little bit out there in one sense, and also it can be a little bit hard to execute on one's own. And but it is just once you can really learn how to do it for yourself, and there's so many good resources out there. But tapping is one way to really feel safe in the body, because what we know about the brain is that the brain is trying to keep you safe and alive, and that is like its job. Like that is like at its most fundamental core, like your brain is trying to keep you alive. And so when you start steering your body mind towards something that your brain perceives as dangerous, the brain is going to do a bunch of things, including like shut you down in terms of like feeling like that confusion. It's like, okay, I want to think about my core values, but when I try to sit down and think about that, my brain just like shuts off and I'm like, oh, nope, I don't have core values. I don't know, nothing's important. And like that is a survival protection mechanism, like a protection. I like to think about it as protection. Like your brain is truly just trying to protect you from going into some place that might still be painful. And so that's where EFT can really come into play, because in those moments when I'm feeling like, because this used to happen to me a lot, I was like, I don't know what to say on social media. I don't even know, like, I don't know my core values. I'm not important, like all these things. But when those stories start coming up, which are very real stories, like to call them a story is not to call them false inherently. Like they're significant, right? Like they built me, but they carry a charge, right? And so when they carry this charge in the body, that's when you know EFT can help, because EFT, as acupressure, even if you are literally just thinking about the thing without having to learn all the words, even if you are just tapping through all the points, it can help reduce the charge. And then once the charge is gone, it can open your mind up for more reflection, for more insight, for more connection to yourself, more connection to your past. Because I think truly, truly, at least for me, when I was first going into this work of what is important to me, it was so blocked. It was so blocked.
For someone who doesn't know what EFT is, can you
Yes.
explain kind of what these pressure points are and like what you're saying, when you're tapping?
Yes, yes, yes. So EFT is also called emotional freedom technique, which is essentially a blend of like cognitive exposure therapy and acupressure, which is basically acupuncture without the needles, because we know scientifically a couple things. We know scientifically for sure, that the acupressure system, the meridian system, we know it exists. Like there's gory pictures of it on the internet. If you're not squeamish, there's literally pictures of it. You can see it in the human body. Like it's very fascinating. We also know that from so much science, so much research, that when you tap on these points, so there's one we call the karate chop point. So if you're imagining that you are going to karate chop somebody right on the side of the palm, there's one right there. And there's a number of them that we use primarily in the head. So like the top of the head, in the corner of the eyebrows, outside of the eye, and several other ones. We know from research that when you tap on these points, at the same time that your fear response has been activated. So that means, for lack of other words, you've been triggered by something. You're feeling something in your body that is unpleasant, that your brain is registering to you as, I don't really like this, and it's kind of something for me. When you can hold that feeling in your mind and tap through the series of points, which you can find just on in the Google machine, if you literally just go EFT tapping points, there's a lot of beautiful diagrams on there. And as you are holding that sensation in your body and you're tapping on them, you are literally sending soothing signals, biochemical signals, into directly in the moment into the fear center of your brain, that is literally quelling that fear and soothing it in a very permanent sort of way. Because basically, think about it, it's like, okay, well, I can't think about my purpose. I can't think about meaning, because I'm just, whenever I do that, I feel totally blank. I'm so blocked. And then it makes me frustrated. Now I'm like full of this activation in the body. My chest is tight. My arms feel numb. And it's like, if you stop in that moment and tap on these points and just acknowledging those feelings, physiologically, you will calm down. You will calm your brain down. And once you have feeling a little more calm, you take some deep breaths, you will literally find that your mind opens more, because now your brain is not like "Eek," panic mode. It's not like, oh, survival, survival, survival. Now the other more creative centers of your brain have more access to your past and to your present and to more hopeful sort of thoughts. So
That's really cool. What I'm getting right now is like it's kind of like you're touching yourself, you're soothing yourself, like which is a sense for me of like finding that safety, nourishing yourself. I just think that's so beautiful. I'm curious, this Victor Franklin, I haven't heard of him or what logotherapy is. How did you find him, and like what else does he teach about? Because core values was a thing that I went through
mhm.
discovering and learning through my coaching program last year. And like for me, it's like vulnerability is really important, compassion, love. And
Mhm.
so I think that's such a beautiful point for someone to maybe reflect on.
Yeah, yeah. So serendipitously, I found myself at a live breathwork event here in LA. That was a breathwork and EDM yoga event. And I had just moved to LA, and I was like, I need to go out, I need to do something. And for whatever reason, I even personally am not like at the time was not like the hugest fan of breath work, and I hadn't really done it like in like a lot, like just a couple sessions. But I was just like, you know what, I'm feeling called to this. My sacral response said yes. I was like, I guess we're doing this. And so the facilitator was talking about this book that he read called Man's Search for Meaning by Victor Frankl. And he basically was talking about how Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist who developed these theories about life being inherently meaningful at all times, even in challenging times, and that our main drive for life, for humanity, like our main purpose on this world is to find meaning, is to create purpose. But he was developing these theories, and then he spent 2 years, 10 months in a concentration camp where he actually like lived out his theories, like he was experiencing it. And what he noticed is that the people who were able to survive, part of that reason was because they found something to hold on to. They found a meaning in their in their situation, which is not to say they found a reason for it. Sometimes we hear that people are say, there's no reason for that. And he really acknowledges in his field of psychotherapy that some things just don't have a reason per se, but that doesn't mean we can't find meaning in them, because sometimes finding a meaning means finding an attitude that is supportive. And so that's what he found in these like really dire circumstances situation. And so he's saying, the facilitator is talking about this, and I am just like full body chills. I'm like, oh, that is so good. I can't, like, literally, I on the walk home from the breath work, I like Amazoned myself the book because I was like, I gotta read this book. And the first half of the book goes into his experience in the camps, and then the second half of the book goes into logotherapy, which is what he is basically called his branch of psychology. And the more that I read that book, I was like, there's got to be more about this. Like, I am so into this. What can I do? And so I found that there is a Victor Frankl Institute of Logotherapy that provides coursework for lay people like me who are just really interested in it. And so I was like signing up for that like immediately. So I'm like almost done with my first introductory course in it. And it's like a 2-year thing. But I mean, you don't have to take all of them. But anyways, just from this book and just from the coursework, the coursework is where I really learned about his idea about core values. He doesn't really go too much into finding them per se, but he really goes deep into how they're it. Like, in without using the exact words, he's basically like, these are the breadcrumbs from your soul pointing you the direction that you really need to be moving, because once you understand what is important to you as a whole without other people's input, then you can start moving that way, applying those things to your life in everything that you do. So like, one of my core values is wellness, and another one is is exploration. And it's like, when I'm exploring things, whether it's myself or a new book or something, I feel alive. I feel myself. I feel like life is meaningful, life is purposeful, and it's just a feeling that you get. And so that's really where he goes into that. And his whole thing about logotherapy, as I keep talking about, is meaning, is he really brings a spiritual aspect into it, but he's very careful about separating the line between religion and spirituality. And I even like to say that he talks about it in a way that is actually separate from New Age spirituality and actually separate from religion, because he really talks about how the human is composed of 3 parts: body, mind, spirit. And the spirit is just as much a part of us as the mind and as the body. And when we are detached from that spirit is when we are detached from meaning and purpose. And because the spirit part of us is the part of us that seeks meaning. And so it is, if we didn't have a spirit, we wouldn't be seeking meaning, because we would just be body mind, we'd just kind of be like an animal, essentially just going through living instinctually. But because we have the spirit part of us, this like totally resource, perfectly whole, like authentic self, like emanation of source, like part of us inside of us, like we have this capacity to heal, to overcome. And it's like, getting in touch with your core values is getting in touch with your spirit, and it's like rebuilding that connection, that bridge, because once you have that bridge built, like you're on your way.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. And I love psychotherapy, and I think I have to buy that book now because that sounds so
So
good.
good. It's so
And
good.
I love how there's so many modalities out there for someone to find clarity, meaning, purpose. Like there's astrology, Clifton Strings, human design, Akashic Records. Like there's so many things out there. And I think it's just so beautiful that we have that ability, because even like my old job, like you have to take one of this personality tests, and it'll help you like whatever like empowerment thing they were doing at work. But
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like just helping yourself find and look within and reflect upon your personality, your desires, your core values. And coming from someone, I know you've studied a lot of things. I know, and I probably only like touched the tip of it, but I kind of want you to explore them a little bit, just for our listeners to kind of like hear your journey of why you started. I don't even know where you started, but I know you have Akashic Records, and I know you have human design, and then I know you went into energy codes. But like, yeah, is there anything that like you can share, maybe a little tidbit of each of them, to maybe just, if there's someone listening today, like is maybe meant to hear it and be drawn to, one of those specific modalities?
Yeah, sure. Sure. So really during COVID, like Many people. I found myself with a lot of extra time and I realized, what am I doing like with my life? Like, is this it? Because I had the money, I had the job, the person I was dating at the time, like he also had the money and the job, like we were like luxury dinners and nice trips and but then I had all this time and I was like, uh, crisis, mini crisis. Like, oh no, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? And from there, it really like catapulted me along with the use of some psychedelic substances in the rave culture, to be totally open and honest. Like that, those two things combined really like opened my heart in a way that I was like, I think there's more here. Like, I think there's more to life than just going through this motion of pleasure. Like, I think that's just not really the purpose of it for me. And so that's how I landed into going down all spirituality things. Like in the beginning, it was I just like found all the things that I did. I joined like a spiritual online community, and there was like lots of workshops, and so I was like dabbling in all the workshops. But then I was like, Akashic Records really resonated with me because I think it resonated with me first because I was like, I've always felt, even as a child, that I am connected to something. Like that something has always been deeper. Like I was that kid who was like, my friends are like, come play. And I'm like, no, I'm going to sit here and breathe with the earth. You guys go ahead. And they're just like, what are you saying? But okay, whatever. So like I was always that kid. And so when I learned about the Akashic Records, how it is truly developing the channel to directly to source that we all have, and it's not even it's developing in the sense that it just needs to be exercised a little bit because it's already there. And the first time I tapped into the records and I felt like a physiological sensation in my body, I was like, whoa, okay, we're here. Like something is happening. Like this is real. And then I started doing it for other people, and other people were giving me feedback. And so that was really me developing first, like, okay, I am source. Like I am significant. And because I am significant, that means that whatever it is that I desire, I'm going to start moving towards. And so then I landed into something called living astrology, which is a nature based astrology version of astrology, I guess. I don't know if version is the best word, but because then from there, it was like, it was really visualizing myself and my natal chart in direct correlation to the earth, in direct correlation to the seasons on the planet, to the way that the plants operate in astroherbalism. So it's like connecting the way that I see myself reflected back to me in the cosmos, seeing that in the earth and knowing yet again that, okay, I have something special about me that is here to be cultivated. And so from there, it kind of jumped me into human design. And I've been studying human design on and off for several years. But the thing I loved about human design was human design, to me personally, is a little bit more actionable than astrology. Astrology is like a beautiful self discovery, self exploration for me. But human design is a little bit more instructive. And as a human, I think it's okay for us to acknowledge that it feels supportive to have instructions, to have a little bit of guidance, like pointing me in the way that I need to go. And I'm not ashamed to say that. And living into that, human design gave me language to feelings I already had. It just truly reinforced so much of what I already felt about myself. And there's something just empowering about that. Like, it's so hard to explain being seen, especially as a child who I felt like no one ever saw me, like no one ever wanted to get to know me. And having these modalities like astrology and human design like look me in the face and be like, I see you and you are special, you are here for a reason, like this is no joke, like this is real. And from human design, I really got into so many other things, like astral travel, which I studied for so long, but I still honestly have not been able to astral travel, but I still love studying about it
Same.
so much.
Yeah, I took a course on
um
that too, and it's like I just need to practice. But yeah, it's people the stories that I've heard. They're like, I came out of my body and I'm looking at my body on the bed, and it's like dark,
yeah.
and you have to say like turn lights on, and it's like it's wild.
Yes, so wild. And so I got into like lucid dreaming and basically all of these consciousness exploring modalities, because what all these modalities started to showing myself is that what I see is not all there is, and like in my physical senses. And because of that, it just made me curious about it and like to keep going, keep learning all of these things. And then I did like a life coaching, spiritual life coaching certification, because I was like mostly searching for my own life purpose because it was Dharma coaching. And so it really that helped me to learn how to ask myself better questions, because it really helped me to see the quality of the questions that I was asking myself was not doing me any favors. And being more open ended with my questions and being more curious about life instead of demanding something from life really changed my perspective. It's like, okay, I'm here. So what are we doing? And that's something also Franklin psychology taught me, is that life is always asking you a question, and it's up to us to take responsibility in the sense that we can always respond, whether that's with an action, with an attitude, with literally anything. But then I got to the point where I had to put all of my modalities away because I got really lost in the sauce. I got really lost in the sauce of self exploration, of self help. And I literally say I almost drowned in it because it just got so overwhelming. And of course, the second I like threw my hands up, in the movies, I was like, source, take the wheel, because I don't know anymore. Like a couple months later, I got introduced to this book called The Energy Codes, which is embodiment and energy work that totally shifted the perspective of my life, shifted the trajectory of my life, literally shifted everything. And it is the one modality that I go back to all the time. And it really is just this sense of embodiment and being in my body and understanding, what does that even mean? What does that mean? And then getting into, how do I feel it more? And how do I live my life in my body? Because as a chronic overthinker, always in the future, always in the past, doing embodiment work brought me into right here, right now. And this is where the answers are. Like, this is where all of that is in this physical body, in this sensation right now. And yeah, the energy codes it's an incredible book, because you can just tell that Dr. Sue writes it from very personal experience. And all of these modalities as well are totally like invitations. I like to look at any modality that I step into. It's like, this is an invitation for me to experience, absorb some of it, leave some of it, make it my own, make it work for me, and then continue on. And so from the energy codes, I did that for a very long time. And then, yeah, the Franklin psychology is probably the most recent thing that I've been on. And of course, in between, there's been so many, so many different other things. I took this really wild course one time. It was called Mystic Brain through Mind Valley, because I used to have a Mind Valley membership. And it literally taught you how to create your own neurotransmitters. So, like, your own dopamine, your own anandamine, like oxytocin, like it literally walked you through how to create that on your own. And so it's like all these experiences just really brought me into, how do I experience more of what it actually means to be human, and not just the limited version of it that I was taught by society, that is like to be a hamster on a wheel. Like, it's so much more than that.
Oh my gosh, Belle, you're so cool. Oh my goodness. Like, and I love what you're saying about just like all these modalities, like look you in the face and like kind of tell you what you are, or show you parts of yourself that you've already known and like bring it to the surface. And I feel like it's a really beautiful way to like take personal responsibility for your actions and how you feel, because oftentimes, like what you said, like we're meant to respond to the situations around us. And before coaching and all the things, I used to be really reactive. And so it's like allowing
Mm.
that fight or flight mode to just kind of come out without even being intentional with what was coming. And so through these modalities, I've been able to see, oh, these are like kind of my shadows, or these are my lights. This is where I'm usually triggered. This is where I'm not. And it's a choice to like go into the shadow and really bring light there. And it's like, that's to be in the shadow is so beautiful, because it shows you what the light is and what beautiful parts you do have within you, and being able to take personal responsibility for how you travel through the world and how you react with people and how you have relationships. And I really feel as though when I uncovered so much of myself and released those limiting beliefs and those conditionings, I was able to vibrate literally from an energetic place higher
Mhm.
and attract things more easily. And it doesn't mean
Mhm.
life is like simple now, but I feel like I would have waves, like my waves are really severe. I'd be like really high, like so happy. And my fiance even has videos of me like crying because I'm so happy, but then the lows would be like crying because I'm so low. And I think what this has helped me, this like spiritual awakening, personal development journey, has helped me kind of make the waves shallower. And I kind of
Mhm.
live in this like medium state now of there's more balance in my life and there's more harmony. And I want to ask you, when you do the work, right? The work, quote unquote, like
Yeah.
find out more about yourself, do the therapy, do the whatever it is that you're doing to do the work. Do you feel like you energetically can attract more things into your life? Or can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah. So first, I just want to say I super resonate with everything that you just said about the high and the low, and really, it is more shallow and it's more spread out. And I feel like the more work, quote unquote work, that I do, the more healing, the more focusing on those parts of myself that need love and attention. Because really, that's just how I look at it. Is that there's some part of me which I just learned about something called internal family systems. I haven't studied it yet. Somebody just told me about it, but it's all about understanding that there are different parts. Like just these parts of us really just need this love and attention. And the more that I integrate those parts into me instead of reject them, the more that I just acknowledge their presence, the more embodied I feel, the more like bright. Like if I imagine myself as like a ball of energy, because truly that's what we are. It's like in the beginning, well before this, it was like my light was a little dimmer because there was just so much stuff. I was just holding on to so much from the past, like so many things. And then the more that I integrated those through like EFT or the energy codes or plant medicine or literally psychotherapy, I was on prescription medications at one time. Like the more that I integrated that, it's like the more brighter my light, the energy that is me, and the more like of my own energy I'm pulling in. So, and because of that, it does make it more, I don't, I guess it is more smooth. More things that are meant for me are coming my way, because I have personally let go of having to really call things in, because it's like I just trust, and it is my nature, it is my human design, my innocence motivation that really drives me to just be here in the moment and trust that what is coming for me will come to me. And the more that I, like you said, like do this work, like the more it just naturally is coming to me, and the more I feel aligned. But it really is so much of this. There are still moments, right? Like there, it's just like this never, I think it's just going to be this process that it is going to continue to have to be work. But I just don't get so judgy about myself about when I'm having those moments. And I'm also like, I'm just very open about how I'm feeling about all the time. And like, I live with my partner, and there's definitely moments where like I walked away from a situation and I'm just like, I did not handle that very well. But instead of like being hard on myself, it's like I really just sit with it and like, where was that coming from? And let me just breathe into it in my body, because once I breathed into that sensation and processed it, then I can like make a better choice. It's that moment in between the action and the choice that is getting bigger. The more that I do this work, the more mindfulness, the more meditation, the more me I live, that gap in between just makes it, yeah, so much easier to
So
choose.
beautiful. A couple things. I really resonate with you when you say about kind of like manifesting things, you kind of stop calling things in. I feel very similar, where I know people say in manifestation, like you have to align your frequency to the thing that you're desiring. But it got to the point where there wasn't anything I desired anymore. And I was just trusting that the universe would bring whatever was needed for me. And it's a
Hmm.
really interesting surrendered place to be in, because now there's all these, workshops. People are like, oh, let's manifest your success and your dreams. And I'm like, I literally have every single thing I can ever want. And that's not to say like, cool, more money would be cool. More abundance would be cool. But it's like, I am so fulfilled and happy and full of meaning in this moment. And I think it's this like beautiful connection to the divine of like trusting that you're here, and the divine will lead you to your next intelligent step or the next thing that needs to happen for your soul's purpose. And me falling in love with myself, I think
Hmm.
really helped partnership. And kind of what you were saying with your partner, like bringing in that love and that compassion and that grace. And I really felt a huge transition with my partner and I. And not to say that like maybe we wouldn't have gotten married, or like because I'm engaged now, right? Like
Yes,
I'm
yes,
not
yes.
to say that like we wouldn't have gotten engaged, but I feel like after that year of my coaching, I was able to see and love myself more without that judgment, accept who I was. And that brought more acceptance and compassion to my partner. And I feel like that brought us closer and allowed us to be more vulnerable and allowed us to feel safe, because there were no insecurities. It wasn't like, oh, he did this because he's mad or he doesn't love me. It's like, no, it's like probably his own projection of what he was working through. And just offer yourself compassion. And you don't need to take that personally, because you know he loves you and you know you love you. And it's just like such a beautiful place to be in.
Yes, yes, yes. All of that. All of that. All of that. And this whole manifesting thing, it was I had some like resistance to letting go of it in the beginning because it's like we live in a society that tells you that if you don't know what you want, then you're never going to get it, and you have to like be working towards something, and you have to really, do this. But what I realized is that all of my manifestations, the things I was quote unquote manifesting, like money, car, house, like I just got to the point where it was like, is that really the primary driver of my life? Like, is that really, really, honestly, like, because I'm not judging, whoever. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. And that's not for me to tell somebody that money and cars and all that is not their soul desire, because I don't know. I can't know. But for me, it was like, if I had a choice between, you put a platter of, $1 million in front of me, and then you put on the other side, it's like, well, on this side, I can't tell you how much money there is, but I can tell you that there's meaning and there's purpose, and you're going to feel satisfied every day, and you're going to love your life no matter what. Like, I'm going to go that way. Like, I'm going to start doing that, and that's what I want instead. And I just trust that when I engage with those things that are meaningful, that are purposeful, that I want to do because I want to do them, because something in it just calls me that way, that whatever is on the other side of that, my very limited human mind cannot possibly project out into the future more than realistically maybe 20 minutes, if that, like 5 minutes. Like, seriously, something crazy could happen in 10 minutes. It's just like letting go of that. But it's like, my mind was so resistant to that at first, because it was just like, no, if we don't keep working towards money, then we're going to be in our dated 9 to 5 every day, and that's not what we want. And if we don't figure out how to do this right now. And I just had this like moment with myself where I was just like, my mind is trying to do something that it was not designed to do, which is to lead my life. And so what if I acknowledge that more money would be great, a car, luxury travel, like those things would be phenomenal. Like, of course, I'm not gonna lie to myself and be like, oh, we don't need that. We can just go, live in a hut and do whatever. Like, no, 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 no. Like, of course, those things would be nice. Like, let's be real here, especially I'm a Taurus rising. Like, come on, we like pleasure and comfort, but also at the same time, mind, it's like, you really like doing these things. You really love studying human design. You really love reading these books on logotherapy. What if you just do that, and we trust our body to do the rest? Because as I've learned from human design, like, our body consciousness is our, and something that I've connected the dots between all of the modalities that I've learned is that the soul speaks to the body, and the body communicates with the mind, because the soul has a hard time directly communicating with the mind. And so it's like, if I put my mind on my body and to focus on that, and focus on the good sensations that we get when we're doing things, then my mind doesn't need to worry about the future, because the soul is going to get the body there, like, either way. So like, that's the whole purpose of that. And that was just like, it felt like a such a relief, like, to let go of having to manifest things, and acknowledging that, like, I don't have to know. I just know that what's coming for me is for me, and I'm gonna feel so good about that, because trying to manifest all these material things does not make me feel good, and it does not make me feel aligned, and it makes me feel stressed, and it makes me feel confused, and it makes me feel hopeless. And it's what puts me into this spiral, this like downward spiral of like, I'm just gonna sit around scrolling social media all day, because I'll never be able to figure it out. And so I'm done. And but now it's like, I just wake up every day and I'm like, what do I want to do today? I could do pretty much anything I want. So that feels so much better.
That's such a beautiful perspective. That resonated so deeply, and I love all of it. For it's interesting, a lot of people who have been coming for readings to me are shifting their reality, and they are wanting to leave their job and travel the world, and they are wanting to leave their partner, they're wanting to find love, but they are still stuck in their fear. And I feel like you probably have a couple tips, and something is wanting to come through. And what's wanting to come through is like, focus on one thing. Like,
Hmm.
there's so many, like what you were saying, like the money and the car and the job and like and the love. It's like, oh my gosh, that it can be so overwhelming that you want to do all those things at once and like achieve all those things and manifest all those things. But focus on like one category of your life, like whatever category that is that you feel called to. And it doesn't have to be the heaviest one or the one that needs to change the most. And maybe it's the one that needs to change the least. and focus on that. Put your energy there, and then go from there, is how I would say, to be able to like release a little bit more of fear and be in that curiosity, in that meaning, and that purpose. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love that. I love that for sure. And something that I find myself saying a lot to people is that the path, the journey forward, the path forward, like in order to go forward, you have to go inward first. And we so desperately want something else, like we want to get something different, that it can be really overwhelming to just think about all the things we want to be different. And my tip for people is to obviously feeling safe and like being secure, like that's number one. Like if you're in an unsafe relationship, obviously like got to do something about that. If like you're not being able to feed yourself like because you can't find a job, like there's so much of that. But a perspective that helped me is that I was born into the United States. I incarnated into a capitalist society for a reason. So I feel like it is part of my just soul path to figure out the money thing and the soul thing at the same time. And so for me, that looks like it first looked like just getting my finances and stuff like in order, like survival, like the triangle of Maslow's needs, like just getting that done first. And instead of this will help me. Instead of so desperately trying to find the thing that needs to change, it was really spending time on myself first. And it was truly, truly resolving the trauma, resolving the discrepancies, resolving the activations. It was spending time with my inner child, spending time with my inner teenager, spending time with my self, and learning the astrology, getting astrology readings, like learning about how I'm special and unique. Because once I did that, the things that I thought that I wanted totally shifted, and they became so much less stressful. And this is not to say that I am not working every day towards making my passion my purpose, like my career. Like I work a 9 to 5, like I'm a data engineer. Like that's not the dream, but it pays the bills, right? And I would love to have luxury travel and all of those things, but constantly focusing on what I don't have was taking away from what I do have. And I say this very sensitively because I totally understand, like, working in retail or working a job that is totally draining. It's like really trying to get that somewhat stable. And at the same time, just this inner work is so potent because the way that it changes what you want is so relieving and it's so powerful. And so, because I've had people come to me, I was doing readings for a little while recently, and it was kind of the same thing. It's like, what do I do next? It's like, well, how do you feel about you? Like, how do you feel about you? Like, are you good with most of your past? Like, do you feel like you know who you are, like beyond your just like likes and dislikes? Like, you know your core values, you know what's important to you. Because once you have those things down, it also makes making these shifts that people are looking for so much easier, because it's like you have a solid foundation. It's like a lot of people, myself included, I was trying to skip the foundation part and go straight to career, which is why actually I ended up jumping from Akashic Records, astrology, human design, all these things, because every time I went into that, I was just like, oh, is this my new career? 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 But then once I stopped doing that and was like, let me just come back to me, like, who am I? Like, what is important to me? And worked on myself, then the path started to illuminate. It's like the path started to evolve. Oh, okay, I'm feeling this, and that requires patience. And I get it. I'm an impatient person. Like patience is not one of my virtues at the top. Like it's something I've always had to continue to cultivate and work on. And that used to trigger me when people would be like, you have to be patient. And so again, I'm sensitive to that. But I think also that just desire of having to have it now causes so much stress. And like I understand, I get it. I would love to have my dream career right now, but when I let go and put it into the universe's hands and trust that meaningful moment every day as much as possible, baby steps are going to get me there, it just I just can't tell you the relief and the stress. Like it's just gone. It's just like totally gone. It creeps up, but then I'm able to like, let me just read a book or something. Let me give my mind something to do, because obviously my mind is bored and I'm not giving my mind anything supportive or creative to do. So once I start getting my overthinky, it's like, okay, my mind is just looking for something to do and that's not productive. So we're going to find something I love, And that's what we're going to do.
That is so profound. And I love how you said, the foundation is you. You are the foundation and everything else will follow. And actually, what you want after you work on yourself often shifts and changes, which I 100% resonate with. And I really feel like you mentioned something about inner child work, and I kind of want to share this with everyone because I feel like this is one of the most powerful, for me at least, modalities that has helped me like get to where I am and like really fully love myself and know who I am and have compassion with myself without judgment and all the things. And it's like what it is, it's looking at past versions of you, whatever age, might come to mind right away. Any regrets you might have, any ways you might have been bullied, or even decisions you made that like you didn't really don't sit with you now, and it's going and it's facing that version of you, whether however you do it. There's so many different ways you can do it. In your mind's eye, you can do it like different ways to do it through meditation, but confronting that version of you, usually offering them compassionate self-forgiveness, offering them love, is like all you need. Like sometimes if like, and I understand like there can be a lot of trauma involved with this, and obviously see like a certified specialist that like will help support you through this. But if it is like something more like little t trauma, like being bullied, or at least actually being bullied could be big T too, but for me, like those parts of me, I was able to really honor them and be like, you were so great, you did the best you could, and like you're amazing. And it was like a lot of crying, like you said, a lot of tears, but it's like
So many.
really bringing that version of you to the surface, and like the version of you, like it's so beautiful and so profound. And I recommend that for everyone. And not to say like everyone has their own journey, and I understand that, but I think the world would be a better place if everyone like went to therapy or coaching or something.
Ugh, yeah, something. Everybody did something to resolve all something to give themselves love, the versions of themselves that needed love, desired love, craved love, that didn't get love for whatever reason. Because yeah, so much of that has been supportive for me as well. And it's like we are like humans in these bones in this like rock in space, and we're flying around, and time isn't real, and so we can like go back into the past. And it truly true the first time I ever did like some sort of inner child work absolutely blew my mind wide open on the nature of time, because I went back to that, and me and that little version of myself, we cried together. And I like held it was so weird because I was like holding the version of me as I was crying, and I was like talking to them. And it was like, and now that I've also changed memories, semi-traumatic memories, to where it was like I truly, and this is just from inner child work, literally just from going back and doing this for myself. It was like this memory that I had that was really painful with my mom and my brother. I literally went back and like envisioned my mom and my brother reacting, because I did a little dance for them and they made fun of me, and it really crushed my soul. But like I literally just sat and went back to that memory and like reformulated it and envisioned my mom reacting the way I wanted her to, and my brother reacting the way I wanted him to, and sat with that and really felt it viscerally and heard it and touched it. And now when I go back to that memory, the first I like don't even think of the painful one. Like it's only this like essentially a fake memory, but it's not fake because like I put it there intentionally, and it's just so wild how that works.
That's so beautiful, because oftentimes a memory is actually a memory of the last time you thought about it. And so that makes a lot of sense, like what you're saying.
Fascinating. Okay, yeah. That makes so
uh,
much sense.
so for our listeners who maybe want more of you, what are you doing right now, and how can they find you?
Yeah, so right now I am deep into my student mode. So I am really just sharing, exploring, journeying, and sharing about it on TikTok mostly, and Blue Sky, which is kind of like a version of Twitter, but way cooler. And so Mystically Belle is my name on there. I will start maybe sharing some things on Instagram as well. But right now, that's just really the best way to keep up with me and what I'm doing. And yeah, I am just a fellow wanderer, fellow traveler, and love to connect with other people who are going through their own self discovery, self exploration journey, and tell me all the weird things. I'm here for.
Thank you so much, Belle. I feel like this interview was just so profound and intelligent and wise. And I know my listeners are going to find such beauty in it. And having had, some of your medicine, I had a human design reading from you and Akashic Records reading. I'm like trying to think of anything else. So I'm
Yeah.
like all in for all your life work. So
Yeah, I know.
anyone else, she's not offering anything yet, but like she comes and goes, and you
Soon,
never know. It could be like
soon.
another month or
It is.
something coming up. So
Yeah, it does, it does. It comes and goes in waves, and we'll see.
yeah, so Mystically Belle on all social media platforms, and I'll leave everything else in the show notes. And is there any last tidbit maybe that you want to share?
Oh, I just want to remind people how significant and special and important they are, and how it is so important for people to be themselves, for you to be yourself in this world that is trying so hard to make you into somebody else. Like it is so much fun doing self exploration, self inner journeying work, like exploring the different dimensions of who you are, because this physical reality is truly just a taste. And when I say that, I mean that in the most like genuine way, that there is so much more out there for exploration. And the more that you learn that and the more you experience yourself, like the closer you get to it, and it just blossoms into an incredible experience.
Beautiful. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. And I do want to share, if anyone is looking for inner child work, I do incorporate that into my coaching. So definitely take a look at my website as well. But I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And thank you, Belle, for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome.